and welcome to 5 Minutes in the Shed. So, what's happened since last time? Yeah, still cleaning the petrol tank. Petrol tank isn't clean yet, still cleaning the petrol tank. But my arms keep aching, and you know, you can only shake for so long. So, you know, that's a bit of work in progress. I did fix my stand, so as you can see, there's the stand. Bike's back on the stand now. It was just a strip bolt in the bit that holds the side stand, so that's all right. That's all fixed now. As you can see, actually, I'm using the bike itself as a drying rack. I've painted a few bits and bobs, chain guards there hanging on the back wheel and mud guards there. I'm at the primer stage, so I'm on like the 4th or 5th coat of primer, and then flatting and making sure I've got all the bumps out. They're pretty pitted in some places, so it's taking a bit of work. So yeah, I'm sparing you from the sanding and sanding and sanding because it's dull as dishwater. So all the bits have arrived for the engine, so I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the gearbox together. Right then, transmission time. So as you can see, I've got a big hole. Now that needs to be stuffed full of gears and shafts. So I've got the gearbox over here. Just move these out of the way. So this is the gearbox in its entirety. So we've got 4 gears, selector plate here, which moves there with the gear lever. Basically, the engine puts power into this cog here, right, which goes round. All right, so the engine drives this round like that. This is driven by the gearbox, this shaft in the centre, and this centre shaft has the primary drive on it, right? The secondary drive, so the gearbox, what do you call it? You know, the cog at the front that drives the chain that drives the back wheel, that one, right? So the engine's spinning this round, this is spinning the back wheel round, right? So the difference in speed between these is determined by these 4 gears, right? Constant mesh gearbox, so it's not like a car gearbox where you get the noise, right? So this is driven by these 2 selectors here, which run in that cam plate, and they move the dogs in and out of the gears to do whatever gear you want. Right? So the main shaft here, right, the one that the big one, that's got a bearing at this end of the casing, and it's got a bearing at the other end of the casing. That's where all your power and stuff's happening. The other one, the kickstart shaft, kickstarts at one end of it. But this shaft just runs in a bush on either side because that's just turning gears, right? There's no real pressure on that one. So what I need to, the good thing about these transmissions is they're all one lump, right? So you get one big lump and then you slide it in the engine, job done, right? There's no messing about with little fiddly bits. But as fiddly as it gets is the little spring thing here, which goes in the back of the casing, which sits on that cam plate and holds it in position, right? So that kind of indexes the position. So you've got first gear, neutral, second, third, fourth, right, and the way that it goes through. That just sits in a hole in the casting in the back there. So what I'm going to do is, got my nice little paper gasket, thin paper gasket there. You can't have a thick gasket on here because it knocks out all the tolerances on your gears. So I've got a thin paper one. As standard they don't have one, but as standard they leak. Right? So that's why I've got one. So what I need to do is get a bit of sealant on that, drop that on there, put a bit of sealant on this surface, then gather it all up and jiggle it in. Now, sounds easy, but sometimes you have to have a bit of a wiggle and have a couple of attempts at it. So that's what we're going to do today. Once that's on, I'll turn this around and show you. Once that's on there, then I need to put the kicks. This is the kickstart here. So that kickstarts the engine like that, and it springs back up into its home position. Now, to spring back up, there's a spring which goes around this, which I've got here. There's the kickstart return spring, goes in there, and a plate and stuff. Once that's on, then I can put the main cover on, and the main cover's got the gear selector here, and that's the gear selector mechanism there, and we've also got a hole in the top which comes down the top here, for the clutch actuator, which pushes the clutch rod through the engine to open the clutch. Right, so that's got to go on afterwards. Right, so I don't think you want to see me like putting Hylamar on a gasket and swearing at a transmission trying to put it in a hole as a live sort of thing. So I think we need to cue the funky music. Right then, so gearbox is in. It went on surprisingly easy, almost like I'd forgotten something. I don't think I have. So yeah, transmission's in there, it's going round all the way forwards. Just one down on the gear shifter. So that's in first gear. So if we pull it back a little bit, that should be neutral. No. That's first. That's second. Third. And fourth. We're not, it's like fourth gear. So all the way back to first. I can't seem to get neutral without a lever on it, but yeah. That's all working, so yeah, happy with that. Next thing is, this is the drain plug for the transmission. Right, it's a drain plug, so the bit at the bottom is the drain plug, and this bit at the top here, that's the level for how much oil you have in the transmission, which is that much, right? So usually you undo that one, and yeah, anyway, this is all knackered, it's horrible and minging, so I bought a new one, which is here. And it comes with shiny new washers on it and everything, which is good. So that goes, I don't know if I can tilt this back, show you. This goes under there. Oh, that feels a bit tight. I wonder if the threads have got some muck on them. I better check. Anyway, so yeah, that's done. And then like fill a hole at the top, I'm going to put a cap on. I've got a cap, but it's dirty and minging, needs polishing before I put it on. So, transmission is done. I'll build up the kickstart bit and put that on next. Fantastic. Right then, so I was going to put the cover on here, but I can't, and there's a reason for that. What I've done is I put the sump plug in. The threads were just a little bit tight. I guess the plating's a bit thicker than the unplated old one, so it just needed a little bit of effort to screw in rather than being finger tight. So drain plugs in. That's nice. So let's get this back up the right way. Right then, so what can we do now then? What we can do is, that's heavy. What we can do is we can put the cylinder head on, but before I do that I need to dry build it and check that I've got all the right seals. Now when I say seals, what I mean is, let's turn it around so you can see, these are the push rod tubes, right? So actually I can take these cable ties up now. both of those off. Right, so they're the cam followers there, and you can see as you turn the engine round, that comes up to open the valves, and then the other exhaust valve will open on that stroke, like that. So they go up and down, actuating your valves. Right, so while they're actuating, they've got a push rod which goes up into the head, and that's what pushes the valve open and closed. So those push rods go up in a push rod tube like this, and the push rod tube sits over there, and then the head sits on it. Now the distance is absolutely critical, right? And there's all different kinds of seals and stuff that Triumph used over the years to stop these leaking. They always leak, right? There's no way around it, they just leak. Right, so on this model of engine, there's a rubber seal here. Right, now that rubber seal goes over the cam followers like that. It's a bit tight in there. Tight. Right. Goes on like that. Then this sits over that rubber seal. Make sure it's in. Right, like that. I need to do the same for the back one. Right, bear with me, this might be a bit boring, this video, but it's really important when you put the top on the engine. Right, so that's got to go in the back one. Like that. And then the back tube goes on there. Like that. Okay, so they're the tubes. Now they come in at a bit of an angle actually towards the head. Right, so that goes in like that. Then here's the cylinder head, and these are the seals for the top. Right, so these kind of silicone gaskets go on the top there. So they fit into, I'm assuming you can see on the video, let's have a look. Just about, I'll move you around. There we go. These white seals fit into like a recess at the top of the cylinder head there. Like that. Now I am going to put some sealant on these, but I need to dry build it first. I don't even know if they'll stay in there. We shall find out. No, don't. Anyway, let's try it. So, wiggle, wiggle. That goes on there, like that. Make sure they're both in the holes. Make sure they're both pushed down. Now, right, now this is the critical bit. That gap in there, because obviously this isn't crushed down at the minute, that gap in between the head and the barrels should be 30mm, and that is not 30mm. Sorry, 30 thousandths of an inch. So that's about 1.5 millimeters ish, maybe about 4 pints or something like that. So I know one reason, because I haven't put the head gasket on. We're going to need a head gasket. Well, before we do that, we're going to need a head gasket. So that's the old head gasket, which is it's about 1.5 mil. Actually, we'll do a dry build with the old one. Is it clean? Yeah, near enough. So that goes on there. Let's make sure these are fully home. Yeah. Those rubber seals are home. Right, the front one's in. Front one's in, but the back one isn't. I don't know why. Might just be slightly out of alignment. Oh, there we go. There it is. Right. Still not quite right there. Right, that one's right. And now that one's out. Ah, there we go. Now the back one's out again. Yeah, not sure about that. Really not sure about that. So, what we're supposed to have is about 30 thou in there, which I think works out about 2 packets of Rizzlers. I haven't got any Rizzlers though, so can't try that. Now, if it's not, when you try and put the head bolts in, you can't crush enough to get in. Right, so it's really important that it's right. So, I need to see why that is, because at the minute that won't work. Right, so back to the drawing board. I'm going to faff around with this for a while you listen to some funky tunes. Right then, I just did a dry fit, test fit on here, and learnt a couple of things, right? What did we learn, I hear you ask? Well, I'll tell you what we learnt. We learnt that, number one, it fits, right, which is good. I think it just needed a bit more pressure to squash those down. It needs a bit of a wiggle to get down to a position and then go. So that's no problem. What else did we learn? We also learned that this head bolt, this head bolt here was really hard to turn in. Not like nasty hard, but tough. So I'm just going to check the threads in there and clean that out a bit. I did put a bit of WD on them just so they ran in a bit nicer, but this one didn't want to go in. Don't know why. I know some people put oil in the thread holes, so when you wind it in, it's easy to wind in. But the problem is, if the oil pools in the bottom of the hole, as you screw the bolt in, you can hydraulic the oil, which can be bad. It can break things. Don't like that. So just a bit mildly moist to put it in is fine. You don't want it too wet, because otherwise, you know. Anyway, so that I think is ready to go on. So now I need to take it apart, get some sealant on these before I push them in, and some sealant on the top ones to make sure they're all nice, and they because the sealant as well, as you squish it down, because it's a bit wet, it lets it slide a bit, right, which is good. The other thing I found as well, you know how meticulous I've been cleaning everything. Well, the little grooves where these O-rings sit in there, one of them was full of crap, so I had to clean that out. Totally missed that. So yeah, clean it again, then think you've cleaned it again, then realise you haven't cleaned it again, then clean it again, is the message for that, I think. Right then, so yeah, sealant on all these. I need my new head gasket, which is here. Shiny new head gasket. Now the problem is with copper head gaskets, alright, people assure you that they're annealed, pre-annealed when you get them. I don't know, I never trust anybody really with the annealing process. I mean, how do we know how long this has sat on a shelf? We just don't know. And the other thing is, just feeling this, there's a few burrs around the edge of it, right? So I'm going to give this a bit of action with a needle file, and then I'm going to get my blow lamp out and I'm going to anneal it before we go any further. Right. Right then, so I've got a lovely soft copper gasket. I've taken all the edges off with the needle file, so it's all nice and smooth now, no sharp burrs on it. Giving it an annealing, heating it up to red, and then dropping it in a bucket of water, and it actually feels soft and it's bending really easy, so I'm having to be a bit careful with it. Now I've got some magic spray here. This is special magic copper spray for copper gaskets, right? These usually put these on dry, right? But this stuff puts like a stickier coating on them, like a liquid copper sticky coating, right? Which is really good. A bit like, you know, like a new gasket has the sticky stuff already on it, the composite ones. Much better than a copper one, but you know, copper goes on these engines. So I'm going to give it a spray with this copper spray. Let it dry, and then that'll be ready to go on. Right then, so through the magical power of television, it's actually the next day now from where we were when you saw me a minute ago, which was yesterday. Right, so everything was measured, everything looks like it's going to fit okay. So now what I need to do is take all this stuff back off. Wiggle, wiggle. Take all this stuff back off. seal came out with that one and that one. And I'm going to put a little bit of sealant on both of those rubber O-rings that go on the bottom of those. I'm going to take these white silicone ones, pull them out, put some sealant in the bottom, stick them back in again, and put a little bit on the bottom as well. I'm not going to use a lot of sealant, because what you don't want is big globules of silicone going down and blocking oil ways on the cam followers, because that would be bad. All right, but they do need a little bit of sealant because it helps slide it in a little bit before it starts to go off a bit, and obviously helps seal it up. So yeah, got the tubes, need to seal the bottoms, need to seal the tops. Then I've got my nicely sticky sprayed copper gasket there. That's ready to go on. So I think we're finally ready to put the cylinder head on top of the engine. Now I'm going to put it on. I'm going to put it down with 4 bolts. It's got 8 bolts. I'll put it on the outside bolts because the inside bolts are actually longer and they come all the way through the rocker covers as well. So they'll go on a little bit later. So I'm just gonna pull it down, not too tight, just pull it down just snug on the 4 bolts, and then we'll see where we are. Right then, so tops on. I am really getting ahead with this project now. Sorry. So cylinder heads on, looking good. Why is that dirty there? Don't know. Rocker tubes are in. Everything looks good. Everything pulled down nicely. This bolt's a little bit tight, but I checked all the threads and everything. It's just tight on the threads. Bit weird. Don't know. But it's gone down okay. So yeah, I've nipped them up, but nothing super tight. I've just got the head sitting on it now. So the head's sitting on there. Next stage is the rocker boxes. So here's the rocker boxes. You may remember them from earlier. The little dome nut goes on the right hand side of the bike. So that one's got to go on there, and that one's got to go on there. But before we do that, we've got to put in the push rod tubes, which go up and down to rock the rockers, and we need to put some gaskets on. So I'm going to take them off again, put all the sealant on, put the gaskets on, drop these on, and we'll get them screwed down. When these are screwed on, then I can put the 4 center head bolts on, and then we can look at making it all nice and torqued down. Brilliant. Right, I have no idea what happened, but I was doing the time lapse, sped up footage thing, and I'm just about to put one on, and then the camera went off. Don't know why, but I didn't notice until I put the second one on. So you missed a bit. However, they're on now, so they're on. Nuts are nipped down, bolts are nipped in. What I can do now is I can put the head bolts in there. Now, if I remember correctly, the plain bolts go at the back, and the bolts with the towers on for the head steady go at the front. So they should screw straight in, which they do. Good news. That one doesn't. Yes, it does. Right. So we can drop those in to a point where they just got a bit of a bite on the head gasket. It's quite a long way in. Let's try that one. This socket's a little bit short for this bolt, but it should go, No. Alright, big one. Okay, that's down. This can go in as well. So yeah, I can't understand why the time-lapse footage went off. It's a shame. But you know, these things happen when you're playing with an engine, I suppose. Alright, so down enough so it notices. There we go. On outsides. What we're doing, you've got to do a bit of a sequence, haven't you? You can't do them all on one side first. Can't do that. Right. Just get that. Right, so got 4 bolts in the head, holding the head down onto the copper gasket. That should be good. And I've got corner bolts on the rocker boxes. Just tighten down a little bit. And I've got, yeah, that's all ready. Now I've got 2 more bolts to put in these rocker covers, and that's the oil return lines, right? Which is that one and that one at the back. Right, now these have got like a cutaway at the top for the oil to go through a banjo bolt, and then the oil goes through little holes in there. Now these are proper minging, right? So I bought shiny new ones, treated myself. So there's the shiny new ones. Now this is the oil line here, this bit of plumbing. It's all cleaned out and everything. So that goes on there, this way. Yeah, like that. And then the oil pipe goes down the back of the engine. Alright, so what I need to do is get one of these. And there's 3 copper washers on this. Right, 1 copper washer stays at the bottom, stop the oil falling out the bottom. Like that. 1 goes on at the bottom there. Then the banjo goes on like that. Another copper washer to seal the top of it, and then the dome nut. That kind of looks like it's too long actually. Does that look too long to you? Yeah, let's see how far it goes. Yeah, way too long, look at that. So, why is that so much longer? And I've just noticed that these ones have got a stack of copper washers on the bottom. So obviously I've got to stack that out. I'll do that. I'll space these out, pull them down a little bit, make sure everything's good. And I'll put them back on again. These must be off a different engine. That's a shame. I'll fix that now. Right, there we go. Once again, I just had another long natter to the camera and it weren't even switched on. So, yeah, so there we are. 21 inches of pure power. Triumph 350cc engine. We've got the barrels, we've got the head, we've got the rocker boxes on. I've turned the engine over. Oh, hang on. Oh, getting tight now. To check the rockers are going up and down, which they are. So I know all the tubes are sitting in the cups and everything. That's all good. That's all there. Got oil feed at the top. One of these oil feed bolts, I had to stack it right out, different length, unless the rocker cover's different length. Don't know. But they're both in the right place now. The banjo's in the gap, and the gap goes down to the hole, and the hole oils everything in top of the engine. Almost ready to kickstart. If I had a kickstart on there now, I bet that'd go. Right then, so engine's all done. I don't know whether to put some primary drive on before I put it back in the bike. Not sure yet. I'll let you know next time. Thanks for watching.